I want to put a whole caveat out there that when we talk about the men, the women, or if we're just going to talk about the energies, the divine masculine or the divine feminine, it does not relate at all to body part. So we hold the energy inside us as humans. We hold both energies. We may be here to embody maybe one or the other, and we may even be coming into union with a partner who holds a masculine and maybe we hold a feminine, and it can be completely reversed. You may be in a woman's body really holding the masculine frequency, and that's comfortable. You may be in a man's body holding the feminine energy. And so when we discuss this, I just want all listeners to know from the start, we are discussing right now energies, but for the sake of simplification, I'm probably going to be using he to talk about like the masculine, and the examples in my life um, are primarily men. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, that's a good disclaimer because we're talking today about something that you told me, I think you told me for the first time last year. And when you said it, it just made so much sense. And the way you say it's not judgmental, it's not critical by any means, it's compassionate. And it's something that your guides have told you, and that is that the men are not okay.
Yes.
In our society, as we are operating right now, as we are ascending, as we are changing and growing, the men are not okay.
Yeah. This started, I think I tried to go back and look. I want to say it was over a year ago hearing that, but it was after the whole catalyst to all of this is a lot of beautifully bright men in my life who have gone through really hard divorces or relationship breakups, and seeing like the result of that, the struggles that come with that. And I actually last week encountered another beautiful soul who's his guys actually clarified it for me, and I was like, that makes so much sense. It's to view these struggles as initiations. So initiations to a higher evolution of yourself if you choose to accept the challenge. Whereas like say in ancient Egypt or ancient times, our initiations might have looked very different, like going to a cave for 30 days or, swimming with alligators to,
Slaying,
get your
slaying a beast, maybe.
slaying a bee, like trying to cut through that illusion of fear and to get to your growth. The initiations were, what we would consider to be, you know, fasting for 30, initiations back then. But we're just now in a modern day society where the initiations are coming in different forms. And a lot of times it's a super painful experience. And for the men around me, it has primarily been exiting of some sort of relationship in a way that has been profound. I mean, it's not maybe others divorces that have been amicable and beautifully co-parenting and all of that, it's been a true initiation. So anyway, that's just another way of viewing it.
That's something that you realized this past week, is that they need to be
Yes.
viewed as initiations and not
Yes.
how how are men viewing them now? That's a painful way to view them. What do they need to what's the non-helpful mindset about it?
I think in general, you can either view it as this is happening to me or this is happening for me. And along with that, you can view the other party as the perpetrator, or you can view them as playing a role in your growth. And that's really hard when you feel like super hurt. And I know this from experience, by the way, not from the divine masculine point of view, but from the feminine. You can view all of those challenges as something that is putting you in a state of being the victim, or something that is putting you in the state of being your own creator of a new life.
No matter your sex or gender, we have all been there, victimized ourselves in a situation, chose chose sadness and a bit of pity over growth and empowerment. And the purpose of this conversation today is to talk about what men are going through in this moment, and what the divine masculine is, what's kind of led it to this point of suffering and twisted and manipulated, and what the universe and the world is asking of the divine masculine to become, and how we want people to hold and express it. And it comes from nothing. This conversation comes from nothing but love and compassion and wanting everybody to feel centered and peaceful and empowered by themselves. There's in no way a criticism of men, what
Mm-mm.
they're doing. This is a we want more for you and for everybody.
We need you. We need your energy. We need you to step into your energy, and absolutely, this is 100%, our love letter to the men, to invite them into our space of spirituality and our in the space of their own divine power. And so part of where I was going to start, and you can ask where you want to start also, but was sort of like when you said, do you want to have this conversation on the podcast? I was like, oh yes, absolutely. And then I started receiving kind of information, I guess, if you will, that may help exactly what you said, clarify how we got here. How did we get here?
Yeah, wherever you feel like is a good place
Oh.
to start.
Whew. So the very first thing I was told when you invited me here to talk about this was to look at the DNA frequencies of what the male, because our DNA is different, right? And we all carry history from the collective that is proven scientifically, and it's called epigenetics. So we're carrying, in general, this just total overview, um, trauma. We're carrying genetic traits. We're carrying all sorts of things, and we're passing that down. But for the men, they are carrying a lot of collective distortion of what it is to be divine masculine here on earth, and how it has kind of been um, distorted, I guess, is the best word I can say. So I'm just going to leave the feminine sort of out of this for now, because we all have seen that, right? We've all seen kind of that rising and in a cyclical way over the course of the past, I don't know, 100 years or something. But for the men, it's very rooted in the frequency of power and war. So a lot of this conversation is going to be centered around that, and the distortion of the power of the masculine frequency here, and how that is literally encoded into your DNA, and asking that you see that kind of corrected. If this feels if this is calling to you, work on correcting it to be aligned in divine light. And then that will in turn be the new whole divine masculine frequency that will be accessible to all and encoded in our genetics going forward. So the fighting and the war is embedded mostly in the masculine frequency, if that makes sense. So if we think over our history, if we even think what we're taught in school, it's all the histories of war. The soldiers were primarily men. They're fighting each other. And I had someone actually come to me once. I had this whole enlightened conversation with this man who joined the military, not even knowing why he was doing it. So when last week they were like, it's literally a distortion in the DNA that kind of needs to be fixed, kind of needs to be collected and straightened out. That came to me, that example. I was like, oh my goodness, I wonder how many are kind of blindly just following an imprint in their soul to join the military, not even knowing why they're doing it.
I recently met a man who was in the military for several years, and when I asked why he joined, he said, "Well, my parents were in the military, like, or my dad was in the military. I think my grandpa was in the military. It's like a lineage." And while I understand wanting to follow in your family's footsteps, that's a very normal thing to desire, like the family business. In this case, it just happened to be the military. I just couldn't help but think you're signing up for something very different than like if your family owned a bakery and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll go into the family business and be a baker." Like you are signing up to possibly end lives, to have your own life completely changed by the training. I grew up in a military family, both my mom and my dad, and two of my brothers and my uncle was in the military. So I am familiar with the lifestyle and the ways in which it breaks you apart and breaks you down because it needs you to behave in certain ways. It needs you to be in that frequency of war and obedience.
Mm,
In order to get you there, they have to they've built a process that will get you there.
mm.
And this is not an overall critique of the military. This is
No,
just what happens, and
this is just information.
it's just
Yes.
information, and it affects these everyone that joins the military. If we're gonna say generally men, because I don't know, up until what 70s, 80s, women probably weren't even allowed to join the military. I don't know when. But yeah, if we're talking about like all the hundreds of years of histories of war, it's like you said, it's been primarily men. And to get men to the point where they can do what the military is asking of them requires kind of like I just see this dampening of the soul or like a stamping down of parts of you.
Yes, so that's actually a perfect segue into the two ends of the power frequency. If you can just right now visualize a line of so this is how I always view polarity. So there's one end, on the left, there's one end on the right. I mean, this is just a very simplified version. But if you take that and just call that the frequency of power, what happens and what has happened to the divine masculine is you have those on the very, very end of the I have all the power. And so they take. And so let's just stop there for a moment and just talk about the characteristics of those genetic codings. And you can see this playing out all over Earth now, taking from the Earth, you know, because you just believe you are more powerful than it, or, your power is most important. So if we're even going to follow the military guidelines, you can, I don't know, I've never been there, but this is just what I'm just sharing information, and I have compassion for all and any role anyone's playing. Um, but the ones kind of doing the leading or the ones in charge, some of those may be on the power. So, their power is at the expense of someone. So that's like that's a distorted, one end of the distorted frequency. And if we go to the other end, it's the I give myself over as sacrificing, almost like a martyr, because I have no power. And so those are the two ends and there's many reasons for the distorted frequency right now of the divine masculine, but this is one of the main ones, is what I was told when all this stuff started flooding in last week. And so I would invite any man listening to this to maybe ask, are you on either end of that? Are you on the end of, you feel you should be at the very shadow side, conquering or dictating, or at the other shadow side, which may look selfless, but it's just another distortion of internal power? Am I giving myself completely up because I don't matter? Am I sacrificing myself? And so those kind of warriors were here on earth this entire history as well, knowing they were oracles, or they were coming here as protectors. And they knew when they were coming and descending down into this density, they would be giving their life up. So they knew when they signed up for lives, they were coming to die, essentially. So sometimes these men too subconsciously equate putting themselves first with maybe dying. I mean, at the very soul level, this is all very, very, very deeply embedded in the codes. But um,
Or like
but those are like the two ends. Mm.
yeah, or like they assign martyrdom with spirituality.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like men have been presented with two paths. One is you feed off of the power of other people. You put other people as secondary, less important to you, and you gain power. That is one way. And if you see it on a grand level, like our world leaders right now, or you can see it
Yes.
on a micro level as, say, a man and his family who
Mhm.
treats his wife as subservient, who isn't kind to his children, treats them as like just as they serve him, a societal necessity. He's at work, my employees, I am the boss, you listen to me, I don't have to listen to you. And that's one path. And that's expected of men.
And we're talking total extremes here. This is a
Yeah.
spectrum, but yes,
This is
yes.
this is the spectrum that is the problem ends of the spectrum, and that we're asking.
Like the disease that's underlying, the symptoms that we're kinda seeing play out, if we're gonna put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, and then the other path that is presented, and like you said, these different paths are genetically encoded, and if you want to break that down, women, what makes a woman genetically a woman, and there's variation in this. We're just talking about people who have XX chromosome, and there's, like I said, genetic variation. So two X's, and a man has an XY chromosome. Women don't have that genetic information on the Y
Right.
chromosome. Yeah, so we're
Mhm.
talking men have a specific genetic
Yes.
lineage of epigenetic trauma because in epigenetics, it turns on and off certain DNA that then is gets passed down through
Mhm.
your ancestors and their lives. And so the maybe you've been passed down that genetics of I have to take power from other people in order to be worthy, in order to be powerful myself, which again is like an external version of power, saying I need the power from other people. Or that other end that you described, which is I must give up all of myself. All of my power is also external, but if I give it to somebody, then I will have worth and then they will empower me. And that is more like the soldier that joins up, that joins to a cause. Or on a different family level, it's the man that says, I must provide for my family, which means I must work 80 hours a week and kill myself and not actually spend time with my family and not take care of myself and stress out my body and be unhappy. But as long as I am feeding and buying into this bigger narrative of what a man is or what my business tells me, what the stock market, the economy, whomever, it's asking you to buy into something that places your power externally and therefore hurts you and then hurts the people around you.
Yes, and so the on the less, severe spectrum of the power also would be the societal imprints of tying your identity to anything external as well. So we just talked about like the extremes of the spectrum, but like a subset of that would be you are your job. You are the sports team you watch. You
You are how much money you make.
are how much money you make because that's because you must only provide the money to your kids when, the kids maybe just like, hey, can you come spend a day fishing with me? Or whatever it is. But be present in that, right? So the distractions that are kind of in place right now are clogging the energy fields. So, and that a lot of those distractions relate to those identities that we're asking to release. And so now here's the link that links all of this together is as we're kind of going down this pathway, the divine masculine is very structured. It is holding a container. It is able to do the actions. And what's happening right now, especially in the United States, I can't speak to everywhere else, but what's happening right now is an energy of institutions and systems in this stages of essentially collapsing, or, light being shown on the really dark places of them where they are not serving all. They're in the stages of wanting to, if they're based in fear and not love for all, they're going to crumble. And so, what is the divine masculine? They are very tied to institutions just because of the structure that it holds. It's like they're protectors, they're structured, there are leaders a lot of times that, and with that energy, right? And so there's a lot of fear, I think, being without a conscious knowing put into their energetic fields around all of these systems feeling like they're in disarray. Like these systems feel, our government system, our Department of Education at times, like all of that kind of feels like, it's very unstable. And I feel like as the divine masculine holding that frequency of protection, structure, all of the building, like I feel like they're maybe feeling that now. If their identity is also tied to that, they're feeling extra
Stress.
unstable.
Yeah. Unstable.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be helpful. You did define the masculine energy a bit. If we just make it clear when we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, what those definitions are, at least the way that we'll be using them.
I feel like it is, I always view the masculine, I'm very visual, and I always think in terms of math and symbols. So it's the pyramid with the wide base at the bottom, just like we see the pyramids in Egypt. And so what that is like the masculine energy is extremely stable, secure, grounded, um, rooted, because that would be the root chakra, at the very base of the body. All that energy is holding the protection, the structure for everything inside of it to kind of be fluid and floaty and all of that, which is the divine feminine. So the divine feminine is the reverse. So if you think of the inverse pyramid structure, it's funneling down from the stars, the intuition, the magic, the going with the flow, and it has to have somewhere to go. And the masculine energy is like, here, I will hold it, and then I will help you take the steps to do this next and do this. And while you're doing it, you feel safe, you feel protected. And so it very much has to be balanced to work in harmony. Um, I don't know if that, please add something. I don't know if that's, so basically they invert together. They
It's the
invert
Star of David is
the
essentially,
star.
if people need
Yes.
the symbol of the Jewish religion, if people need a visual reference. Yeah, I've been diving deep the last year and a half into my own masculine and feminine energy and trying to understand it and parse it out from what society says masculine and feminine energy is, because what they say, oh, like you're so feminine because you wear dresses, or because you like to be around kids, or because you always paint your nails and have your hair done. That's, if that's what you love to do, amazing, great. But that is not the feminine energy that we're talking about. Or the masculine where, it's a lumberjack that uh, chops wood and is super muscular. And they're like, oh wow, but you're so masculine. That's not at all what we're talking about. You who have helped me understand masculinity and femininity within myself so well, because yes, we all have both. And if it's operating within an individual based on your definitions, it's the masculine is the ability to provide yourself safety, both physically around you and within yourself, like nervous system regulation. It's the structures that support your health and well-being. It is the routines that help you reach your goals. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's structure that you set up for yourself, and then that feminine energy is the ideas that you have. So the feminine has like the idea for this podcast,
Mhm.
and then the masculine energy comes in to say, okay, I'm going to support the the tangible production of that idea with a routine and goals and actual tasks that you can do. And the feminine is what flows to say, okay, this isn't working, we got to pivot. Or I'm
Hmm.
having this emotion about this, I need to be with it. It's also what allows the death and the rebirth of this completely isn't working, so I'm going to let go and allow myself
Yes.
to be born differently.
Trust. Mhm.
Trust in the universe, in your intuition, let go of what isn't working. And because, as you said, the masculine energy, that's that's not a part of the masculine energy as it is. That's a part of the feminine. So now when we're asking the masculine in general to not only look at it, just look at its distortions, but also to trust the feminine and let go of these systems that are hurting people, and not only hurting
Mm.
those who aren't in power, but hurting those who are in power because the men are not okay making just because they're the ones that are quote in power doesn't mean that they're okay. They're still not living fully because they're not the system hasn't allowed them to.
Right, that was so beautiful. Thank you for reflecting all of that back. That was absolute perfection.
Not gonna lie, it felt
Um,
good.
and so much wisdom there because the antidote to aligning the divine masculine is actually to go through the feminine is what I'm feeling. And that's internal. And that's internal for these men. And at the very human level, the most divinely masculine men in my life, and my partner included, are very empathic. They're not afraid to go into that side of them and collect the fragments of that they've lost along the way or that they've been told is not manly, or really dive into themselves and say, wait, am I my job? No. Does my worth depend on me watching all the football like every weekend because that's just what I do and that's what everyone else does? And I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying they haven't been afraid to look inside and say, is this a distraction? Like, how do I get back to myself? How do I get in touch with my soul? This is like super hard work, but like, let's go because I'm here for it. So yeah,
Let's go because it's time. And
it's
again,
time.
it's not that you can't love watching football or that you can't love your job, whatever it is. It's just that have you looked inside? Have you reflected as to why you do this thing? What parts of you are attached to this thing? That's all. That
Yeah.
just asking the questions and being open to the answers.
Getting curious. That is 90% of the battle, getting curious because it's going to hit your ego. So if we go back to the institutions, I have come up with this in so many times of my life. I'm just going to use doctors now as an example. Let's go to doctors. I do go to doctors. I believe in doctors. So this is not, however, I've spent a lot of time doing my own energy healing, taking supplements, doing all the alternative things and finding ways to heal myself outside of the need of doctors. And I've excitedly gone to my doctor before and said, "Hey, I healed my gut by, XYZ." And I'll go into it and, and I can sense this energetically a little bit of resistance. And then I realize, okay, ooh, it's because it hits the identity. It hits the ego. So what if it's a sore spot of have I am I open to learning something new? It's a constant question to ask yourself. If you've attached your identity to something, then you're going to be defensive and take offense at something outside of that attachment.
And that is for anybody.
It's for everyone. It's every identity and for everything. I'm just right now using an example of it aligning with institutions. Yep.
I think the doctor is a great example too, because doctors are told you have the answers, you have the cure, you can
Yes.
help people and cure people of what is happening, which is yeah, which is such a beautiful thing and can be so extremely helpful. But if they're only moving from the masculine, they really have that like I have to fix it mentality
Mm.
because it's that I have to provide structure, I have to provide protection. So if they're solely in the I fix it,
Mm.
and when a patient comes and says, I was able to actually fix it myself instead of going, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Can you tell me about it? So then maybe I can learn and spread the information. There is that shift where they go, but I'm supposed to fix it. But by you
Interesting.
by you fixing it, you're even on a very subconscious level, you're attacking my identity and my ability to fix it. And that's probably how men feel in general, or say like in a relationship, right? If you're in a partnership and
Yes.
you have a home and the woman comes and says, "Oh, I don't need you to fix this," or "I fixed the window that's broken."
Hmm.
They go, they're hurt. Their ego is hurt. Be like, "Oh, but that's my job to fix it." Or that's a huge thing between men and women where women just want to like vent about their feelings and have their feelings acknowledged. And that's often all feelings need is to be seen and heard, and sometimes they wanna be seen and heard by other people, and then when the man tries to fix it, and the women are like, "I don't need you to fix it. I need you to be comfortable just listening."
Holding it. Please just hold all of that energy that, we're emoting, that we need to go somewhere. Please just be that safe space. Yes.
And if we're going off of our definition of masculine and feminine energy, that is an extremely masculine thing to do. You are providing whoever it is, your child, your coworker, your partner, a safe space to express, to do what they need to do. In that moment, you are protecting and providing for them.
Mm.
It's simply in a different way than you have been told matters. It's a different way than you've attached your identity to.
Yeah. It's gonna be a whole shift in everything, but it has to come from within, and it has to come with really, I guess, getting to know your soul, like, getting to know the soul. This is what I'm passionate about, releasing everything external and truly, and this goes for everyone, no matter what energy you primarily carry, but truly putting yourself first, that's putting everyone else first. But it's like getting to know who you really are, putting your needs first, honoring that, nourishing yourself, and then everything kind of falls into place because then you're aligned. Then you are a structure.
It's that saying of the only thing I can do for you is work on me.